Harlem, a rooftop, a summer night. The city is spread out below like a map of everything a young man from these streets could want. Music coming up from somewhere, the specific sound of Harlem at night, alive, electric, the kind of energy that makes you feel like nothing bad can happen when the whole neighborhood is out and everyone knows your name. And everyone knows this name. DJ Louvie B is on the mic below. He shouts it out. The crowd responds. A young man on that rooftop hears his name called and feels exactly what 19 feels like when you have already done what most men twice your age never manage. He is not wearing his bulletproof vest tonight. He decided to leave it behind, just for tonight. He wanted to feel what it was like to be a kid again. No vest, no plays to make, no crew to manage, no connect to answer to, no rivals circling, just a rooftop, a summer night, his name in the DJ's mouth. Harlem spread out below him. He has already stamped himself, already put the man who will eventually become the most famous name in Harlem street history into the game. Already taught that man everything he knows about how to move, how to carry himself, how to build something real in these streets. All of it, before 19 years old. And on this night, his mother's birthday, he is standing on a rooftop without his vest, feeling like nothing can touch him. The men who have been watching him all night are waiting for exactly this moment. His name was Donald Johnson. The streets of Harlem called him L.A. And what happened on that rooftop changed everything that came after, including the story the world knows as paid in full. Before there was a paid in full, before there was AZ and Rich and Alpo and the specific mythology that a movie would eventually build around the Harlem drug era of the 1980s, there was L.A. Donald Johnson grew up on Lincoln Avenue in Harlem. That's where the name came from. Not an alias chosen for effect, not a nickname earned in the streets. The block where he grew up. L.A., Lincoln Avenue. Simple as that. He was the kind of boy that every Harlem block produces, the one who sees more than the others, who absorbs what's around him faster, who watches the older men moving through the neighborhood and understands, before anyone explains it to him, what they have and how they got it. He saw the old fellas carrying wads of cash. He knew what that meant. He told his friend Dwop exactly what he was going to get. And then he went about getting it. He started where most teenagers in that world start, with a scheme. He and his friends selling fake hash, posting up outside spots known for having good product and catching traffic that was looking for something real. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it got back to them. Eventually, everyone was doing the same scheme, and it was dead. A lesser person quits here. L.A. was not a lesser person. He found his way to some good product, real weed, and started moving it the right way. In school, to his friends, building a customer base the way you build any customer base, through quality and reliability, and the specific trust that comes from never burning the people who depend on you. But weed was the beginning, not the destination. The destination revealed itself when a friend named D introduced L.A. to something different, pure fish-scale cocaine. And L.A. never looked back. Mac brought L.A. and Dwop into a room. The first time around, the smell and the chemicals, the specific sensory experience of cutting and mixing cocaine made Dwop sick to his stomach. L.A. didn't flinch. They finished, put red tape on the bags, and it was on. From that first batch, from that room where Dwop couldn't keep his stomach settled and L.A. was already calculating what came next, a phenomenal run began. Not slowly, not gradually, immediately. Because L.A. understood something about this business that most people entering it never fully grasp. A drug will sell itself. What separates the men who move weight from the men who move corners is not the product. It's how far a person is willing to take it, how early they get up, how far they'll drive, how consistently they show up. From blizzard to 99 degrees, LA was outside, every day. In the mix, getting that paper. He learned the game and took it to the next level. The OGs, the older men who had been running Harlem before LA, was old enough to be in the streets, respected him. Not because he was large or imposing or violent, because he was ahead of his time. 15 years old, pulling out a nickel any given Sunday, passing it to his friend like it was nothing, paying people's rent, covering lawyer fees, taking on grown man responsibilities and grown man risk before he could legally drive the cars he was parking outside his building. He had a cab driver on standby, a driver on call, paid well to be available, driving LA around the whole city while he made plays, while he conducted business, while he moved through Harlem with the specific efficiency of a young man who understood that time was money and wasted movement was wasted money. He was 15 years old. LA was the first one in the hood to rock Butters. That detail matters. In the specific culture of Harlem in the early 1980s, where what you wore and what you drove announced what you were before you said a word, being first mattered enormously. Being the one who set the standard rather than followed it told the neighborhood something specific about the man wearing the shoes. He made everyone want Dirtbox Tims when he came through. He was the only young boy in the hood with his own wheels. When he came flying down the street, the first one to come through with the system blasting, heads turned. And then he saw the S900 Turbo. He bought it. And here is the specific detail that tells you everything about who LA was at this age. He left the price tag on the car, not because he forgot, not because he was careless, because he wanted everyone who saw it to know exactly how he was carrying it. His baby mother was pushing a red Porsche. He wasn't even old enough to drink or drive, in and out of dealerships with straight cash. This is a teenager from Lincoln Avenue, moving through Harlem with the specific confidence of someone who has already calculated what he is worth and found the number acceptable. He challenged his friend D to try to get $100,000. Friendly competition, men pushing each other toward the next level the way that young men in that world do, not through envy, but through the specific ambition of people who see what's possible and decide to reach for it together. He treated everyone around him fly, gave generously, put people in position, brought men into his circle who needed to be brought up. That generosity, that specific quality of a man who sees his own success as something to be shared, would eventually be the thing that cost him everything. Rich Porter came into the story early. LA put him in the game, not as an employee, not as a worker to be managed, as a partner, as a business associate who deserved to be treated with the respect that partnership implies. In his own words, captured in the Membersonly account of this era, Rich Porter was treated fairly, like a business partner. They kept each other on their toes. Rich wanted to floss like LA, so they flossed together. When LA copped something new, Rich saw something to keep up with him. And when Rich went to finance what he needed to keep up, it was clean. It was earned. They were good for each other. LA was a mentor, in the truest sense of the word, not just showing Rich how the product moved, but showing him how to carry himself, how to dress, how to think about the game as a business rather than a corner operation, how to build something that grew instead of something that stayed small. Rich Porter always told LA one thing: stay off the rooftop. The rooftop in Harlem was a specific kind of vulnerability, an exposed position, a place where you could be seen from multiple angles without seeing what was coming. Rich understood something about LA's character that LA couldn't always see in himself. He was too comfortable, too confident, too certain that the respect he had earned would protect him from the men who didn't respect him. LA didn't always listen, but the relationship between them, the specific mentorship that LA provided to Rich Porter before anyone outside Harlem knew who Rich Porter was, is the detail that changes the way you understand the entire Paid in Full story. The world knows Rich Porter. Rich Porter learned from LA. Before Paid in Full, there was this. LA's biggest vulnerability was his heart. He gave too freely. He brought too many people into his circle. He extended trust to men who had not earned it, and he extended generosity to men who would use the information that generosity provided to destroy him. His circle expanded, and as circles expand, they dilute. The loyalty and structure and genuine trust that the original crew was built on, the thing that made the operation function as a unit rather than a collection of individuals, got watered down with new faces. Snakes who waited, men who studied how LA moved, who he dealt with, where his money was, what his plays looked like, and filed all of it away for the right moment. One of those men was Ron Mack. Ron Mack was older. He had been away in prison while LA was building. When he came home and saw that the young workers were in position, that LA was the man, that the operation he had expected to step back into had been transformed by teenagers into something he did not recognize, he could not accept it. He had no choice but to get work from the young bulls, and it ate him alive. LA, in a move that his own crew could not understand, in a move that people watching from the outside could only explain as either generosity or blindness, gave Ron Mack his connect. Overnight, Ron Mack was a boss. He knew LA's formula down to the specific. Every play, every drop-off spot, every move. He knew LA's baby mother. He was locked in, and he used all of it. Ron Mack set up shop directly across from LA's spots, started taking his customers, got into LA's workers' ears, and gave them product to move behind LA's back. Slowly, methodically, draining LA's operation from the inside while appearing on the outside to be just another operator in the neighborhood. When LA finally saw what was happening, he cut Ron Mack off. But cutting off a man who knows everything about your operation is not the same as cutting off a man who knows nothing. Ron Mack was stuck, owed money to everyone, owed the connect, couldn't get $1 from the street. And when a man with nothing to lose decides to use the information he has, the consequences are specific and devastating. Ron Mack robbed LA's mother's house, not just robbed it, put his hands on her. When LA found out, the response was immediate. 3 cars deep through Harlem, looking for answers, looking for the man who had gone into his mother's house, who had put his hands on her, who had taken from the woman who had nothing to do with any of this. A neighbor pointed to pictures. Ron Mack. LA put $10,000 on his head, but law enforcement moved first. Ron Mack ended up behind bars before anyone else could get to him. The others who had broken into LA's mother's house, the ones who had been with Ron Mack, were still walking around Harlem, still moving through the neighborhood like everything was sweet, like LA was finished, like the man who had been the first to rock Butters, who had his baby mother in a red Porsche, who had left the price tag on the S900 Turbo, was no longer a factor. LA found one of them, Shots were exchanged. The man had a vest on and fired back. Both sides exchanged shots until LA and his crew broke out. And once gunplay is involved, there is no turning back. The beef had its own momentum now, separate from any original dispute, separate from Ron Mack being behind bars. The men who had been at that house were still out there, still watching. L.A. was still wearing his vest every night because Rich had always told him, stay off the rooftop, stay protected. The streets are always watching. And for a while, L.A. listened. Things got better. All of his enemies were behind bars. Money was coming in again. The operation that had been disrupted by Ron Mack's betrayal had stabilized. L.A. had borrowed $10,000 from DeWap during the worst of it. A month later, it was back to the program. Money flowing, things looking great. He started getting comfortable. Friends told him to lay low. The beef ain't over. The streets are always watching. He heard them. He just didn't listen. His mother's birthday. One of those summer nights in Harlem where the city feels completely alive, and the idea that anything bad can happen seems impossible. Music coming up from below. People out. The neighborhood doing what Harlem does on the best nights of summer. L.A. took off his bulletproof vest. Just for tonight. He slid to the rooftop alone. No vest, no crew around him, no protection beyond the reputation he had built in these streets. DJ Louvie B was on the MIC. He shouted L.A. out. And for a moment, just one moment, Donald L.A. Johnson was exactly what he was. A 19-year-old kid from Lincoln Avenue in Harlem on his mother's birthday, on top of the world. The men who had been watching him all night were watching. They waited for the right time. The shots went off. L.A. ran with the crowd, but it was too late. The hitters moved toward him, let him have it. He walked to his car, filled with bullets, too weak to stand on his feet. He fell against the car. Two friends noticed, helped him into the vehicle, drove toward the hospital. In the car, barely conscious, L.A. kept saying one thing. He couldn't die tonight. It was his mother's birthday. He had a mink coat to give her. Donald L.A. Johnson died at 19 years old on his mother's birthday in Harlem, the youngest to ever do it. The people who loved L.A. came to pay respect. Friends visited his mother, left money, came to mourn the boy who had put so many of them in position, who had paid their rent and their lawyer fees, who had made everyone around him fly. Rich Porter paid for L.A.'s funeral, and then Rich Porter stopped by the stash, and he continued running L.A.'s operation, wasted no time, bought all types of cars and jewelry. If you asked him, he was the next man up. That detail is the specific detail that tells you everything about what the Harlem crack era actually was. L.A. put Rich Porter in the game, taught him how to move, treated him like a partner, showed him how to build something real in these streets. And when L.A. died, Rich Porter inherited everything L.A. had built: the stash, the operation, the relationships, the specific organizational knowledge that L.A. had spent his teenage years developing. Rich Porter became Rich Porter on the foundation that L.A. had laid. The world knows, paid in full. The world knows Rich Porter and Ozzie Faison and Alpo Martinez. The world does not know the 19-year-old from Lincoln Avenue who taught the most famous name in Harlem's drug history how to move. His mother's birthday. A mink coat sitting somewhere. Never delivered. That is Donald L.A. Johnson, Harlem's most forgotten legend. Harlem in the early to mid-1980s was producing young men at a speed that the legitimate economy couldn't absorb. Boys who were ahead of their time, who saw supply chains and customer bases and organizational structure in a world that was offering them nothing formal to apply those instincts to. LA saw it at 12, at 13, at 14. By 15, he was the only young boy in the hood with his own wheels. By 17, his baby mother was pushing a red Porsche. By 18, he had put the man who would eventually become Harlem's most famous street legend into the game and was teaching him everything he knew. He was 19 when it ended, on his mother's birthday, without his vest, on a rooftop, feeling like a kid for the first time in years. Rich Porter said something later that tells you what LA meant to him and to Harlem. He stopped by the stash, not out of disrespect, out of the specific understanding that the game doesn't stop, that the operation LA built was the operation Rich inherited, that the best way to honor a man who put you in position is to take what he built and make it bigger. Rich did that for a while, until Alpo, until the story that the world calls Paid in Full played out exactly the way the streets always play out. But before any of that, before Rich Porter was Rich Porter, before Paid in Full, before Alpo, before Ozzy, before the movie and the mythology and the songs, there was a boy from Lincoln Avenue who left his vest at home on his mother's birthday, who wanted to be a kid for one night, and couldn't die because he had a mink coat to deliver. Donald L.A. Johnson, 19 years old. Harlem never forgot him. Subscribe to Bloody Reports. There are 1,000 stories like this one that nobody has told the right way yet. This was one of them.